It was a moment in history that we will never forget. Like the president, most people know exactly where they were when it happened.
Yeah, and so many of us at 7 News were working at that time. We asked our fellow anchors where they were, what they remember about this really important day.
I was still in sports on 9/11 and had to go to Clemson that day to preview their football game against Duke and was listening to what was happening on the radio. I stopped my car, went back inside, and watched as much of the TV coverage as I could before it finally was time to go over there and talk about the football game. I drove the whole way over knowing they were never going to play on that Saturday, and once I got there, nobody wanted to talk about football.
I remember I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I also had my baby, my first baby. And I was watching CNN, and I remember seeing that plane in one of the buildings already. And I started to scream, ran down the stairs. My mom was visiting from New York, and I screamed, and I said, "What is going on? What's going on?" I just was losing it. I couldn't even, keep it together. I'd seen these iconic buildings most of my life, and they were gone. It was really an unforgettable moment. I'll never forget it.
That morning I was in a place a lot like this. I was in a news studio. I was a morning anchor on September 11th, waiting to do a local news and weather update to the network morning show. And right in that moment when they would normally toss back to us, the national morning anchor said a plane had hit the World Trade Center. And like most people, we assumed it's a small plane and we would go on air as normal. What we didn't know, when they never threw back to local stations, was that something much more serious was going on. And like most people, we didn't realize until that second plane hit that this was going to be a world-changing event. In fact, I can remember it so clearly. I mean, like it was yesterday, the weather anchor turning to me and saying, "Y'all, we're under attack." And it turned out he was right.
September 11th, 2001, 18 years ago today, I was in college at the University of South Carolina, living with 6 other girls in this awesome house right downtown Columbia. We were all getting ready for our political science class, laughing, doing our hair, getting ready, and all of a sudden we saw on the TV this plane crash into a building in New York. We started watching TV, and then we're like, wait, are we watching a replay? What is happening? And noticed it was a second plane. It was at that moment we knew our lives and history was forever changed.
So September 11th, 2001, I was a sophomore in college, and I remember waking up. I had a biology test that morning, waking up, reading online that one of the towers had been hit, went in, took the test, came back out, saw that the second tower had been hit, and thinking, how could something like this happen?
Really interesting to hear anchors and our coworkers talk about where they were.
Absolutely. Because where were you?
I was in high school. I was at a college fair in high school, and there was something was going on. That was before the age of like everyone having something on their phone to look at it.
Sure.
But we knew something was going on. School did not go as planned that day. I don't even think we opened a book that day. Went to band class, and they said, "We're not playing instruments today." Our band director just simply told us that the world had changed forever. That's something I'll never forget.
Like Gordon, was filling in on the morning show at our station, so I too did not get to do our local morning cut-in, but Channel 62 existed, and so we had this other platform to be able to get on. So we kind of sat and watched all the coverage that all the stations were doing, all the networks, and then we said, what are we going to do? People were panicked in the Carolinas, so we actually went on the air and broadcast sort of a helpline where people could call in, talk to counselors and therapists, because everyone was really freaked out. I'm a native New Yorker too, and so I have been up to the Twin Towers back in the day, and it was really stunning. I got on the phone with my parents while I was waiting for us to activate that Channel 62 coverage, and we were just, you were in tears talking to people about, do we know anyone
And
up
you were
there?
terrified because you didn't know what would happen next. You didn't know. And so if you ever get a chance to go to the 9/11 Museum and Memorial in New York City, do it. It is emotionally draining. It sucks the air out of you.
Sure.
But it's one of those places that I think every person, every American needs to go and see. So.
Well, we want your stories too. We want to know what Carolina's family remembers. Where were you? Head to our Facebook page, share your stories. We're reading all of them. We appreciate you telling us about your experience.
And people all over are observing today.
That's right. Technical Sergeant Stephen Goshorn shared this video with us. Take a look.
We have not forgotten to remember that tragic day on 9/11.
That's right. The flags are up. He puts that banner up for 9/11 and the flag every year at his neighborhood in Taylors and invites everybody to drive on by and check out their tribute.
Way to go. And in Coney County,